It really did get harder. Canadian families are spending $3,500 more this year. But what creates that gap isn't what shows up on most budget spreadsheets. Somewhere between 2020 and now, something shifts. You make roughly the same money, you haven't changed how you live, and yet every month feels a little harder than it should. The official number says inflation slowed down to about 2%, and technically it's true. But here's what the number doesn't say. Price didn't cut back down, they just stopped climbing as fast. The floor moved and your budget is still trying to catch up. Most families track the grocery bill, they track the gas, but the cost that hit the hardest in 2026 arrives once a year on a piece of paper you almost don't open. I'll show you exactly which one it is and why most families never see it coming. We're covering groceries, fuel, housing, insurance, professional services, and what all this does to your family. Let's start at the grocery store because that's where most families feel it first. A Canadian family of 4 will spend close to $17,000 on food this year. That's about $1,000 more than last year just on groceries. And over 5 years, groceries are up 30%. Beef is up 17% in a single year. That's a significant amount of money that just disappeared from your budget. And most families didn't make a conscious choice to spend more. The prices just move. Now there's a detail that tells you everything about where we actually are. The federal government created a new benefit specifically for groceries. Up to nearly $2,000 for a family of 4. Over 12 million Canadians are eligible. When a government builds a grocery benefit into a federal budget, that is not a coincidence. That is an official acknowledgement that food prices have moved past what families can absorb on their own. This is a systemic problem, not a discipline problem.
Across all food categories, another 4 to 6% increase is projected for 2026.
And then there's the other cost you feel every single week, the gas station. In early March 2026, fuel prices jumped roughly 25% per liter across Canada. In some provinces, price rose 20% in less than 2 weeks. That is not normal monthly fluctuation.
For the average Canadian household, that spike has roughly $500 per year just at the pump. And the impact doesn't stop at the pump. Fuel costs are built into the price of almost everything that gets transported to a store, which is almost everything you buy.
So between groceries and fuel, a Canadian family is absorbing about $1,500 more per year without changing anything about how they live. Those are the costs you feel at the register and at the pump every week. Now, the second category is different. It doesn't arrive weekly. It arrives once a year on a renewal notice. And when you open it, the number is just higher than the last time.
Since 2020, rent in Canada has increased 58%. Over that same period, wages grew roughly 15 to 20%. In several major provinces, the average household now spends more than 30% of income on rent alone. That's already past the official threshold for housing affordability stress.
And if you are a homeowner renewing your mortgage this year, the picture is similar. About 1/3 of Canadian mortgage holders will face higher monthly payments by the end of 2026. For those on 5 years fixed rate, payments are going up roughly 20% on average. That's hundreds of dollars per month. On the same house, nothing changed except the rate. And then the home insurance arises, up about 6 to 8% this year, driven by climate events that are becoming more frequent and more expensive to cover. So the cost of your roof and the cost of protecting that roof are both going up in the same year. And both of them arrive by renewal notice, not at the register where you see them coming.
Added up for a Canadian family in 2026. Groceries and fuel together, roughly $1,500 more per year. Home and car insurance increases $200 to $400. A mortgage renewal, if applicable, potentially $3,000 to $6,000 more per year. Without changing a single thing about how you live, you're absorbing $2,000 to $2,500 more per year at minimum. With a mortgage renewal, that number can reach $9,000 or more.
And the headline number is still technically true. Inflation slowed down, the price just didn't come back down. And most people were never told that's how it works. All of those numbers eventually land somewhere. And where they land is at home. Let's start with the number that stay with me the most. According to a 2026 survey, 27% of Canadian parents say the cost of living has made them less likely to register their children in organized sports. More than 1 in 4 parents and 62% of youth sports organizations are reporting fewer registrations because of the economy. The financial decision is not actually the hard part. The hard part is conversation with your child, telling them their friends are going to practice and they're not. That moment doesn't show up in any budget spreadsheet, but it stays with you. It is not just organized activities, it's connection. My wife's family is in Peru. My son is 2 years old. For him to know his grandparents and his cousins, it means getting on a plane. A flight from Montreal to Lima for a family of 3 around $3,000 to $4,000. That's not a vacation, that's my son meeting the people who love him from the other side of the world. When groceries absorb $1,000 more, when their insurance renewal comes in higher, and when the mortgage payment goes up, something has to move. And sometimes what moves is that trip. A lot of Canadian families with roots outside of Canada are making that exact calculation right now. It's a cost the spreadsheet captures, but it means a lot more than a number. As someone who works with families under financial pressure, I want to name something that almost never gets named. A recent survey of over 1,500 Canadians found that more than half feel anxious about their personal finances, and 41% said they experience physical stress symptoms just from talking about money. But here's the part that matters most for families. Financial pressure doesn't just affect your wallet, it changes how people show up socially.
A Canadian study published in 2024 found that social isolation due to financial hardship was nearly universal among parents of young children living under financial strain. Not because they didn't want connection, because they couldn't afford to participate, and the shame of explaining why made it easier to stop showing up.
Research on financial shame found that shame doesn't push people toward fixing the problem. It pushes them to avoid it. Not because they're antisocial, because it hurts less to disappear quietly than to explain that you can't afford it. In my experience working with families, that withdrawal is one of the most damaging long-term effects of financial stress, because isolation makes everything harder, including the financial situation itself. The money stress doesn't stay in the bank account, it comes home. So what do you actually do with all of this? What I want to give you here are 3 things that matter before any tactical decision. First, name the new baseline. Prices are not going back to 2019. Accepting the new baseline is not giving up. It's what makes clear decisions possible. Second, separate what you can actually move from what you can't. Housing, insurance, and mortgage renewals are not daily levers. But groceries, that's where real options exist. If that's the area you want to work on, we cover the full psychology and the practical strategies in the grocery video. I'll link it right below. Third, name the emotional cost. The guilt when you say no to your kid, the tension that money creates at home, the way financial pressure makes people pull back from the people they care about. If you've been feeling that, this video just confirmed you're not imagining it. It's real, it's documented, and it's not a personal failure. If that landed for you, subscribe, because this is what we talk about here. Not just the numbers, but what the numbers do to families. For the practical side, the grocery strategy and the mortgage renewal breakdown, links are below in the end screen. Keep living frugal, stay free.